Hello, this is David Gottfried, and this is my essay entitled The East-West Sexual Role Reversal. In this essay, I propose that the West and the Muslim world are mirror images of each other insofar as sexuality is concerned. In the West, we claim that the so-called patriarchy dominates and oppresses women. Feminists routinely attack men for all sorts of slights, real and imagined, and entertain the notion that their oppression rivals that of all the persecuted minorities and outcast groups mankind has ever bullied. Meanwhile, the Muslim world has an opposite appraisal. It appears that many Muslims believe that women are the most common culprit of sin and debauchery. In the Muslim world, the most timid and equivocal acts of female self-assertion are greeted with thunderous disapproval. Women are sometimes flogged for showing the slightest amounts of skin. And in Saudi Arabia, the notion of women motorists has seemed as calamitous as something that might invite the Lord's cataclysmic wrath. The West holds that men hold the reins of power, and the Muslim world, in its paranoia of female power, posit that women are the insidious destabilizers of peace and tranquility. Both the West and the Muslim world do not understand themselves. The West does not recognize that Western women already hold a great amount of power, and the East does not recognize that men are trampling on the liberty of women. To explain the universal failure to understand the sexuality of one society, I am going to segue into the concrete and the biological. I am going to take a page out of the script of the 19th century physicalists who held that a theory was more likely to be correct if it were based on concrete physical phenomena. I am going to briefly talk about acute appendicitis. In a substantial minority of patients with this affliction, the pain is not felt in the vicinity of the appendix. Rather, the pain is displaced and deferred to points far from the appendix. Some people propose that the pain is displaced because it is too much to bear, that if all the pain were experienced in the appendix, it would be intolerable. And so we sense the pain in different locales. Psychologists, starting with psychoanalysts, held that a similar process occurs with emotional ills. Sometimes the truth of one's problems is too much to bear, and so we imagine that the truth is something else. To truly bury the frightening truth, we may believe that the truth is the opposite of what it really is. If one surveys American feminists and their allies, one will find that they generally do not come from male-dominated homes. Rather, and particularly among the people in the vanguard of feminism, we find that they often come from homes that are wealthy and female-dominated. Indeed, at the core of the feminist movement, we find women from New York's affluent suburbs who were given every educational advantage and were told that there were no limits to their women power. Also, female power and advantage in America is demonstrated by college enrollment, which is now 60% female, female wealth, which has exceeded male wealth for years, and the constant attention to breast cancer and other female maladies, and the concomitant disregard for what may be the biochemical degradation of manhood. The degradation of manhood is apparent in what some people seem to think are lower hormone levels, lower sperm counts, and increased gynecomastia. This may be caused by increasing levels of estrogen in the environment because birth control pills contain estrogen and/or progesterone, which is, of course, a derivative of estrogen. In addition, men vastly outnumber women in the population of prisoners, the homeless, and psychotics. I can give you more indicia of female domination, but I have already been advised that my videos are really too long. However, as stated above, we in the West believe that men call the shots. Perhaps this is because many feminists may have unrecognized sorrow and guilt towards the men in their family. As I said, many feminists come from female-dominated homes. In these homes, the men are often dumped on. Perhaps the guilt and sorrow feminists feel for their fathers is so great that they cannot admit to it, and so they bury the damning truth by imagining that their fathers are tyrants. I am thinking, for example, of Sylvia Plath's a poem called Daddy, in which she likens her father to a Nazi. Sylvia Plath went to the finest schools and finest mental hospitals. She was accorded every luxury and benefit American affluence could confer on its privileged princesses. Nevertheless, in her febrile imagination, her father is a Nazi and she is a Jew in a concentration camp. To many American feminists of a literary bent, she is as hallowed as Mother Mary. Now, I have never been in a Muslim country. Accordingly, my ideas regarding the Muslim world must be tentative and speculative. However, I have read enough to come to the conclusion that women's lives in the Muslim world are severely constricted, constrained, and painful. Perhaps many Muslims rue the misery their mothers endured and find their mother's pain too much to bear, to better bury the grievous memories of maternal pain. They imagine that women are offensive and aggressive when they dare to drive an automobile. I hope the preceding has been clear. I could give you a concluding essay which tries to summarize everything, but I've said what I have to say, and I invite your comments. Goodbye. This has been David Godfrey.